Welcome to True Health Tuesday, and the truth will set you free. This truth has been hidden from a lot of us. Okay, now, pharmaceutical control of your lives. Now, if you have, wait, let me see. How do you spell relief? R-O-L-A-I-D-S, baby, okay? That hadn't been on for 40 years. So we're talking about incredible programming. So we're going to come into how our lives have been programmed, where we have our medical system that is broken, okay? I mean, if you think, no, we got the finest system in the world, we got the sickest people in the world. So we're going to cover that. And also the censored information, because we do have to divide this up into two parts. One that will get by the Ministry of Truth, I hope, okay, and the other that won't, okay? But last week, we lost another 3 videos that have been up for over 10 years, okay? And they've actually had lots of views and were very, very popular. But now with the change in political climate, the information is no longer available to you folks because, let's face it, you're not qualified to discern what you should be able to read. Okay, only the government should decide for you. Okay, is anybody pissed off with that statement? You should be. Okay, so what we need you to do is like this, share it, sign up, do whatever you can. But the Dr. BVIP, this is going to be going on uninterrupted. Facebook, YouTube, we're trying to get by as much as we can by the censors, but you're going to find out who is their investors. So please, thank you for supporting. If you're already supporting Dr. BVIP, God bless you. Victor, I've asked him to work for free, but he says no. Extreme Health Academy, please get on this, because if you have a chronic illness or injury, this is a group of people, and I'm there at least about 10 hours a month. And part of that time is using webinars. Just a brilliant, brilliant group. And Justin and Kate are amazing. So let's get into this. Now, this article is about 3-4 years old. Time magazine. 24-year-old man dies suddenly from taking painkiller with anxiety medications. Now, if you look at the Stalin's quote's brilliant, okay? Death of one man is a tragedy. 1 million is a statistic. Because let's look at this one man, because we're talking millions of people are dying from similar circumstances. So what did this guy die of? Well, the article, I don't know if it's still up there, because again, this is an article that challenges the pharmaceutical monarchy. Yeah, because that's kind of what it is. It's not really democracy. Okay, but I encourage you to look at this, because what happened? Well, he was taking methadone for pain and substance abuse, and Seroquel. Now, the combination of these two, okay, led to his death, led to cardiac problems. Now, they found out that it wasn't an overdose. These were the right drugs, properly prescribed, in the right dosage, and it killed him. Okay, now, AstraZeneca has paid, more than $1 billion settling problems with this. Of course, we look at Pfizer. Pfizer has paid multiple billions of dollars. So the pharmaceutical industry, and this is, for false advertising, no one went to jail, but they are paying criminal fines. So they are convicted felons, okay, the pharmaceutical industry, but nobody goes to jail. Now, in 1998, the right dosage of the right drug for the right diagnosis killed 106,000 people a year. Now, this is about 5-6 years old. Okay, this statistic estimates 128,000 a year die from the right drug at the right time in the right dosage. So think of this. This isn't a screw up. It's not a screw up by the doctor. It's not a screw up by anybody. So you're taking a chemical to alter your symptoms. And that is what our medical system is based on. It's based on a diagnosis, okay, based on blood analysis, or, somebody just pulls it out and says, yeah, man, this looks like a good diagnosis, okay? So it's based on something. Now, and then a chemical is given. But if you know the hundreds of different of pharmaceuticals, and like just in this room, do we all have the exact same metabolism? No, so you're going to process a Tylenol totally different. Okay, you're going to process omega-3s totally different. Now, what's interesting, 128,000 Americans die each year as a result of taking medications as prescribed, or nearly 5 times the number of people killed by overdosing on prescription painkillers and heroin. So more people are dying from the right drug at the right time and the right dosage. Now, that's around 2,400 people every week. Now, does that sound like a lot? Yeah, it does. The average person over 65 is taking 7 different prescriptions. Now, I'm 61 and a half. That's right, 61 and a half. Okay. Haven't you always wanted to say that? Okay. You forget when you're like in the 20s and 30s, but when you get older, you want to say, yeah, man, I'm old, but still tough. Okay. 7 different prescriptions. There is no study out there about the anti-inflammatory with the blood thinner, with the blood pressure drug, with the antacid. You know what I mean? Nobody knows what those combinations do. And Institute of Medicine related problems kill more than 100,000 people every year. 30% of all hospitalizations are from the medications, the toxic effect of drugs. And this institutional corruption of pharmaceuticals and safe drugs. Now think of this. Over the past 35 years, patients have suffered from a largely hidden epidemic of side effects from drugs that usually have few offsetting benefits. The pharmaceutical industry has corrupted the practice of medicine. The pharmaceutical industry has corrupted the practice of medicine through its influence over what drugs are developed and how they are tested and how medical knowledge is created. Isn't that interesting? I mean, Dr. David Sack, you've heard this quote before, and he said this at a number of medical school orientations. Half of what you'll learn in medical school will be shown to be either dead wrong or out of date within 5 years of your graduation. The trouble is nobody can tell you which half, so the most important thing to learn is how to learn on your own. Which is interesting now, particularly in our censorship group, when information is being deleted. It's being deleted. Okay, and you'll find out that this has been going on for well over 100 years. I mean, when we look at the Journal of the American Medical Association, everybody should have the same blood pressure. No, that changes about every 10 years. The Joint National Committee goes in there and decides what your blood pressure should be. How many people in here have a pet? Okay, 1, 2, 3, 4. What was with dog or cat? Okay, what was his blood pressure this morning? You mean your dog regulates itself? Okay, think of how crazy this is. So, you're not going to check your dog or your fish or your cat or your horse, okay, their blood pressure, but you've got to go in and get it checked because it's the silent killer. Really? Well, this one says that if you have higher blood pressure in heart failure patients, that you had less death rates. Interesting. This one says at the University of Alabama, for every blood pressure medication you take, your risk of stroke increases. Why? Because you're altering your physiology. See, nobody's looking. What's the official cause of high blood pressure? Unknown. Okay, I know what the cause is. It's going to be a reaction to the environmental stimulus. Bam, that's it. So you got to find the stimulus. This requires doctors to do detective work. But does their education include that detective work? No, it doesn't. Calcium channel blockers, another blood pressure drug, increase heart failure. Okay. Non-steroidal anti-inflammatories, Advil, Motrin, Aleve. Okay. Cardiovascular problems, hearing problems, congenital heart, allergic reactions, miscarriage, atrial fib. Oh, and by the way, you're going to take the non-steroidal anti-inflammatory for joint pain, and it destroys the building block of joint cartilage. Okay, yes, my shoulder hurts, so I'm going to take it. However, it's destroying my joints and my entire body. And I get these effects. Cholesterol-lowering drugs. Cholesterol is 50% of the overall weight of your brain. Okay, and it's actually vital for hormone production. If you take this, it increases heart failure and hardening of the arteries. It's corticosteroid therapy. Now, this is everything from I mean, you can provide it for swelling or skin rash or asthma or breathing problems. What does it do? Increase the risk of suicidal behavior and neuropsychiatric disorders. Vioxx, this one killed more people than the Vietnam War. Now, it went through the entire approval process. The Federal Drug or Food and Drug Administration approved it. Okay, granted, they do a lot of rubber stamping. Okay, but they approved it, got it on the market, and found out that a bunch of people died from heart cardiovascular disease. Okay, they made $2.9 billion on it. Okay, now many current practices that seem logical but are without evidence may need to be reconsidered and incorporated into a less dogmatic approach and more patient-centered approach to care. Journal of the American Medical Association. Does this make sense? Yes. Find the problem and correct it. How did we get away from looking that the body is intelligent and responds to the environment for a reason? So look at fibromyalgia. What's the cause of that? Unknown. Inflammatory bowel disease. What's the cause of that? Unknown. Anxiety, stress, and depression? Unknown. Okay, when you look at high blood pressure, unknown. Okay, you're looking at all of these different things, and in the medical schools, they're not taught to look for a causative factor. That's not even considered. So has the world always been this way? No, it hasn't. These are some books that if you want to go into it and find out when the world took that shift from looking that the body is intelligent and that its symptoms are a reaction to the environment. So if you're dehydrated, guess what? Your blood gets thicker, you get joint pain. If you're hydrated fully, fantastic. Okay. If you're had a patient, okay, super anxiety and stress. She ate ice cream for breakfast, lunch, and dinner every day for a month. Okay. I know, I'm thinking the first 2 days, heaven, baby. Okay. Except what did she get? Okay, you're talking, this was not healthy ice cream. She developed scurvy. So she had joint pain everywhere. And what did she do? She went to the doctor. And then the doctor gave her what? An antidepressant and a non-steroidal anti-inflammatory. Didn't ask her about the diet because that doesn't matter. They're not even taught that. So she's still eating the ice cream. Then she comes in there, she's taking antidepressants. What's the side effect of an antidepressant? Suicide and suicidal thoughts. Okay, then she comes in here and I said, my God, how many bowel movements a day do you have? She said, maybe one a week. Because there's no fiber in there. Okay, so do you know what I mean? There's no detective work. These 3 books I really recommend. The Rockefeller Carnegie Big Pharma Scam by Reverend Dennis Shipman. By Chris Canthan. How Rockefeller founded modern medicine and killed natural cures. And then the rise of Rockefeller pharma industry from global possibilities. Now, so what happened? Now, let's go back. Let's go back to 1900s. Rockefeller owned 90% of the oil production in America. Okay, now there weren't that many cars back in 1900. So he had a group of scientists that were working for him to find out how to utilize this oily substance. And they developed petrochemicals. Now, this is where plastics came from, but also they found out that you can make pharmaceutical products from it and lots of different chemicals. Now, the natural substances, they were also looking at, if you could tweak it just a little bit, you can make it patentable. And the patent on these pharmaceutical products was incredible. So not only did he own 90% of America's oil industry, he found out that these products could be converted to oil, chemical, pharmaceutical industries. He could dominate them all. Dominate them all. Now, this was the birth of patent medicines. And patent medicines was a way to control symptoms. Now, is anybody suffering from a lack of Seroquel or a lack of Vioxx? Or is this a nutrient that your body has to have? Like you have to have Advil in order to process foods? Like if you don't get your daily beta blocker, okay, does your body suffer? Okay, so think about it. This is a totally different approach to human physiology, where we're going to give you a chemical to alter your adaptation. Now, we're not going to look at the physical, chemical, or emotional stress that you're exposed to. Just going to give you a chemical based on your symptoms and diagnosis. So that'd be a hard sell, right? Okay. So together with Carnegie, they would change the medical education forever. So they funded the American Medical Association. They hired a guy named Abraham Flexner. Now, the Flexner report was brilliant because you've got this product and you want to sell it. So what's the distribution arm for the pharmaceutical industry? Medical. Okay, but now at the time in 1900, naturopathy, homeopathy, chiropractic, okay, the public really liked this idea. And if you go to New Orleans, they have a pharmacy from the 1900s, and you go in there, there's a jar of rose hips, there's all this other stuff. Of course, there is heroin and cough syrup, which quiets kids. You know, there's a lot of cocaine that you can have. You know, I mean, they used a lot of plant products that they tweaked a little bit and sold as pharmaceutical products. But they had to change the medical education. So the Flexner report concluded that all medical schools should adhere strictly to the protocols of mainstream science. What was mainstream science? The petrochemical industry, the pharmaceutical industry, and this is mainstream science. Now, science is always a debate. Okay, when you go to court, okay, if you're discussing anything, you have both scientists from both sides, same industry, same everything, with different opinions, and that's what it is. So you're trying to challenge always in science. Now, they wanted to change, strictly adhere to the protocols of mainstream science in their teachings and research, or to use patent medications. Now, Rockefeller hired a propagandist. Okay, this was before you could call it advertising. Okay, now you can call it advertising. Back then it was a propagandist. Frederick Taylor Gates, to change the medical education. Don't know if he's related to Bill, but you know, okay, so now Gates and Flexner acted as agents of Carnegie, and they offered millions to the medical schools. So they go up to these medical schools. Now, back then, they were teaching naturopathy. They were talking about natural cures. They were looking at not how to deal with symptoms, but actually how to look at the physiology of a human being that's experiencing high blood pressure, inflammatory bowel disease, to look at the actual causative factors and give them nutrients and substances to allow their body to get strong again, to fight off the disease, or if the disease is coming from nutrient deficiency or toxicity, correct the toxicity by detoxing or give the appropriate nutrients. Does that make sense? Yeah, can't have that. Okay, so they go in there and they offer these colleges, look, we're going to give you millions of dollars. We're going to build you buildings. We're going to give you the best laboratories. We're going to give you all of this stuff, but you have to go along with our patent medicine. We're going to make you modern. So supplying the colleges with buildings, state-of-the-art equipment, laboratories, and hiring professors groomed by the foundation to teach the Rockefeller curriculum. Most colleges took the money, were labeled as qualified. Excellent. Those that wanted to teach natural methods were labeled unqualified. Natural herbal remedies were popular at the time with the public. Rockefeller believed these healing methods had to be eliminated. Of course they had to be. So he used a problem-reaction solution to create fear in the public and offer a solution as patent medications. So what do they cause high blood pressure? I call it an adaptation to stress. No, it's the silent killer. Yes, frightening. Okay, instead of your body is responding correctly based on the stressor, find the stressor and correct it. The cause of the symptom was not part of the solution, only control of the symptoms. Now that started back in 1900. So what do we got today? America's got around 5% of the world's population. We use 60% of the pharmaceutical drugs. We have more doctors and more hospitals than any other nation in the world. Are we the healthiest nation in the world or the sickest? We are consistently dead last on any industrialized nation list. I mean, number one in spending. Okay, but for health of the population, dead last. So what is the health of our population? Now remember, this has been going on for 100 years. 100 years ago, you're talking 1 to 2% of the population had cancer. Now it's 50%. Okay, and it's going up exponentially. Why? Because we've changed how your body, how the medical world is treating yourself. Because back then, you can go to a naturopath, a homeopathy, and they had a joke back then. An allopath is a medical doctor. They said if you went to an allopath or a medical doctor, you die of the treatment before the disease. If you went to a homeopathy person, you die of the disease before the treatment. Okay? Go to a chiropractor, you just get the damn thing fixed. Okay, so autoimmune disorders, heart disease, liver disease. Now think of this, because this statistics I brought up before, but put these statistics on any species on the planet. So let's look at water buffalo. Okay? Millions of them. Okay, you see them migrating. Okay, what if half of the water buffalo were going to get cancer? 20% had an autoimmune disorder. Heart disease is affecting 25%. Would we go into that herd of water buffaloes and give them beta blockers and diuretics or chemotherapy? Or would we find out, is their body defective, or is it responding correctly based on the stimulus? Are they eating something toxic? Are they exposed to something toxic? Does that make sense? So how about we change the system to looking at human beings? Are they eating something toxic? Are they exposed to something toxic? Could that be the reason? Because you could do this on everyone. Now, this is brought to us by the CDC, which has multiple patents on multiple medications. The FDA, okay, which transfers their people to industries. The last head of the CDC, or actually a few years ago, became the head of Merck's vaccine division. So you almost want to call it nepotism, but inter-industry. It's crazy. 60% of American adults have a chronic injury that will never get over. Why? Because they're not treating the cause of it. They're covering up the symptoms with a toxic chemical. And 54% of our kids. Now, this is a worldwide phenomenon where the pharmaceutical industry is literally taking over everything. Non-communicable diseases kill 36 million people every year. 36 million every year. If you look at the last 19 months, even though the numbers are inflated and not accurate, looking around 4 million deaths from COVID. And I know you've heard the stories of somebody hit by a truck. They did a swab, bam, he died of COVID. Okay, but you're talking 4 million in the entire world over 18 months. 36 million die every year. Every year. No one's shutting everything down. Cardiovascular disease. Do you think cardiovascular disease is coming from a toxic and deficient environment? That these people are not getting appropriate nutrients, that they're high stress? Do you think that cancer is bad luck or bad genes, or do you think it's a toxic and deficient environment and high stress? Do you think chronic respiratory diseases, chronic obstructive pulmonary disease, do you think that's bad luck or bad genes, or do you think it's from a toxic environmental exposure? Toxic medications, toxic foods that have preservatives, foods that aren't healthy. Do you think that this is a species living within their genetic makeup, or do you think that they're exposed to toxicity and deficiency? Have to be exposed. Now, so who owns Big Pharma? Okay, instead of looking at this, let's actually look at who owns it. Okay, and what do they own? Because when you turn on the TV set, just about every TV program you're getting is giving you the same message. You're not seeing a lot of the old 60 Minutes where you got Mike Wallace going, "Yes, now we have you. Here's the microphone in front of your face." I mean, you remember when news used to actually be news instead of everybody parroting the thing? Okay, Big Pharma and mainstream media are largely owned by two asset managing companies, BlackRock and Vanguard. And you're going to hear a lot about BlackRock in the property acquisition around a lot of the riots that occurred last year and this year. They're doing a lot of that. Now, BlackRock and Vanguard are the two top owners of Time Warner, Comcast, Disney, and News Corp, four of the six media companies that control more than 90% of the U.S. media landscape. So now you've got the pharmaceutical industry, which has totally changed the medical world. We have more hospitals and more drugs than anybody else in the world, and some of the sickest population. Now, why are we getting this? Well, we have direct-to-consumer advertising through the media. Who pays for that media? The pharmaceutical industry. Why? Because they own their own thing. Because it just makes sense. Because if you're going to do a lot of advertising, why don't you just buy the damn studio? Okay? So they're controlling the information going to the public. Now, it's so obvious, they call it programming. Okay? So for peak performance, take Advil. Okay? If you have that reflux or antacid, get Pepcid, get Nexium. Ask your doctor if this is right for you. And I'm thinking, how the hell would he know? Okay? You can't know that. You're a chemistry engineer. I mean, you can't. It's impossible. So this is the programming of the public. Now, anybody that has an alternate point of view or other data, okay, is now being censored. So now it's flat out obvious. But BlackRock and Vanguard also have a secret monopoly that own just about everything else. They have ownership of 1,600 American firms from 2015, revenues of $9.1 trillion. When you add the third largest global State Street, their combined ownership encompasses 90% of all the Standard & Poor's 500 firms. Vanguard is the largest shareholder of BlackRock. Vanguard, on the other hand, is a unique structure that makes ownership more difficult to discern. Many of the oldest, richest families in the world linked to the Vanguard funds. So when you've heard of the Great Reset, again, this is no longer conspiracy. It's you type in Great Reset, and they have 8 points, and one of those points is by 2030, you will own nothing, and you'll be happy. Yes. So if you're wondering who owns the shit that you're paying the rent to, it's these people. Okay, now 10 owners of Pfizer. Now, this is, you got to figure just about every official at Pfizer is now in the billions and billions of dollars because of the forced product that everybody has to buy. And look at this, $16 billion, the Vanguard Group. But these are the top 10 owners of Pfizer. Okay, these are the ones that are controlling the media. Okay, now I'm going to put a slide up here that I don't know if it will get by, but this is from Medscape. This is from Medscape. Now, for every year, every day, Medscape comes out like with one or two little snippets for doctors. Okay, and over the last 18 months, I'm seeing it used to have some pretty good information, but this is just craziness. This is a screenshot from this morning. Okay. Pfizer vaccine antibodies may disappear in 7-month study shows. Now, you can't say that on the news. Okay, why? Because you can't question anything. In fact, that would qualify Medscape as a domestic terrorist. Now, I'm not saying this. I'm just reading it from Medscape. Okay, but if I was to say that personally, then I would be listed in that category. Okay, too soon to tell at major holiday gatherings. Freedom of speech, freedom of assembly. Okay. Israel reports very few myocarditis cases after Pfizer boosters. Very few. How many? Wouldn't you like to know? What's the risk-benefit ratio? Since last week, they had a couple of, actually the week before, they had some FDA officials quit over arguing about the boosters because, you had the Wuhan variant that is, rarely in circulation now, and the boosters won't work against the Delta, but it might work against it. They just had some discussion of that. And, you can't really have that in the media now. European Union finds the Johnson & Johnson COVID shot possibly linked to another rare clotting condition. Again, would you, if it's forced medical procedure without informed consent, would you want to know this? Well, you can't put it, but I get it in my email. Okay, so, and people are asking my advice. So I can show them the article and print the article, but if I was to say this, it's bad things happen. Okay. Now, interesting. And this is out of PubMed. Okay. Pharmaceutical companies and their drugs on social media, a content analysis of drug information on popular sites. Many concerns have been raised about pharmaceutical companies marketing their drugs directly to consumers on social media. It's called a DTC, direct to consumer. It can be interactive because it is largely under-monitored. The benefits of pharmaceutical treatments could be easily overemphasized compared to the risk. Wait, risk, benefit, risk, benefit. Now, who here is confident enough and intelligent enough to decide, if I give you the information, a risk and a benefit, is there anything in the world that is just benefit and benefit? Anything? No. I mean, even that delicious vegetarian lasagna, okay, you better not eat a big amount. Okay, you're going to be putting on the pounds. Okay, so there is nothing that's just benefit, benefit. Okay, so if there's always a reaction that you can have that could be a negative, it should be out there. I mean, currently, 70% of our young Americans, 17 to 24, are so sick they don't qualify for military service. Epigenetics, these type of chemicals given to you to alter your physiology, change your genetic expression. Now, your genes haven't changed in around 40 to 60,000 years. It really depends on the scientist that you're looking at it. Science is a point of discussion. But cholesterol, we just put down that cholesterol-lowering drugs cause hardening of the arteries and heart failure based on the scientific data. Antidepressants, what's the side effect of antidepressants? Suicide and suicidal thoughts. And they're called selective serotonin reuptake inhibitors. That's a class of them. But do you know how a selective serotonin reuptake inhibitor works? Anybody? Anybody? Good. It's unknown. We don't know how it works. Here's a chemical that was developed by the industry that was started by the Rockefellers. It used to be called patent medicine. We know the side effect is suicide and suicidal thoughts. And your source of depression and anxiety, we're not going to look at frontal lobe dysfunction or the occipital lobe that controls it, or the enteric gut-brain connection, or we're not going to ask you about can you do neurolinguistic programming, or what physical, chemical, and emotional stressors you're under. What's your diet like? Are you low in omega-3s? You know, all of these factors that can lead to that adaptation called anxiety and stress. Beta blockers, diuretics, those are both blood pressure medications that we know increase your risk of stroke. Okay, anti-inflammatories, we know that destroys joint cartilage and increases cardiovascular issues. Oral contraceptives, antibiotics, permanent changes in epigenomes. Now, what does changing your genetic expression look like? Gee, heart disease, cancer, mental disorders. You're talking the non-communicable diseases. So those drugs lead to a genetic change to alter your expression to where you can develop these things. Consequences for modern medicine are profound, since it would imply that our current understanding of pharmacology is an oversimplification. Oversimplification? Show me a study that does a beta blocker, diuretic, and a cholesterol drug, okay, along with an antacid. Let's give that to, what do you think? 10 people? 100 people? How long do you want to follow them for? 6 months? A year? 5 years? 10 years? Okay. Is there an increase in cancer rates of the people that take that drug combination? Or should you add something or subtract something? Do you know what I mean? These are chemicals designed to alter your physiology that in your body is alive now, because you're a tissue producing machine. If your cells are built faster than they break down, that's called health. If they break down faster than they're built, that's called dis-ease. That's why we have this handout. Anything you do that helps your metabolic processes, and your metabolic process are you've got to take in nutrients and assimilate them. You got to utilize the nutrients. Then you've got to eliminate the waste products. So you have to break the proteins to amino acids, fats to fatty acids, and carbohydrates to usable sugars. Anything that interrupts that assimilation process and that utilization of the nutrient process you lead to a weakening of tissue production. Okay? So if you have poor sleep patterns, anxiety, stress, anything that decreases the stomach acid, anything that puts you in the chronic fight or flight state, because we have an automatic nervous system. One part keeps you alive under stress, and that's the sympathetic or fight or flight. And what happens if I go in there and I step on anyone's foot in this room? Okay, I know you would punch me. Okay. I'm talking less violent responses. Okay. Okay. So what would happen? Your heart rate would go up. Cholesterol would go up. Blood sugar would go up. And blood supply to the gut would shut down. Immune systems would go down. And that's under physical, chemical, or emotional stress. Now, that is an intelligent response by the body. This is not taught in medical schools. Okay? They're taught about the autonomic nervous system, and then they're taught about the drugs to control this. They're not taught about looking at the detective work to find the physical, chemical, or emotional stress that's causing that sympathetic dominant to occur. And then the rest, digest, and repair. How many people are sleeping good? How many people are getting up at night to pee? How many people are not regenerating their tissue at night when you're at nighttime, when you're in the greatest metabolic response, where you're richly killing 1 billion cells, destroying 1 billion cells a day, and building 1 billion cells a day? Every red blood cell in your body is brand new every 120 days. I mean, your bones are regenerated. Discs are regenerated. You're a tissue regenerating machine. So anything you do that helps tissue production is good. Anything you do that slows or stops a metabolic process, like a pharmaceutical product, is not good. Okay? If you have a bone sticking out of your body, okay, you've broken legs, cracked sternum, fractured skull, okay, and you take morphine for a bit, that's damn good. I've been there with the whole broken leg, cracked sternum thing, okay? I mean, 2 days of morphine, I'm loving it, okay? But could I have gotten addicted on the opioids? Absolutely. Did it go along with the whole program of taking the drugs for the rest of my life? No. When they diagnosed me with high blood pressure, did I just deep breathe and they checked it again? They said, oh, good, it's normal. Okay, you know, it's foolishness. We are under stress. Your body responds to the environment correctly 100% of the time or 100% of the time. Which one? 100% of the time. Don't you like when I give you the answer? I was way meaner of an instructor. Okay. So we look at the physical, chemical, and emotional stress. Look at the body responding correctly. This one, evolution and public health. 11 years ago, when we had some, reasonable freedom, many diseases are associated with contemporary Western populations are spreading across the globe, influenced by biology, diet, culture, and physical activity patterns. Obesity, diabetes, cardiovascular disease, high blood pressure, dyslipidemias, osteoporosis, bowel disorders, inflammatory, cellular cancers. All of this is related to our physical, chemical, and emotional stress. My God. So does that mean if you're obese, if you have type 2 diabetes, if you have high blood pressure, and this is what I'll ask every patient, if they're taking multiple pharmaceuticals, and try this with your relatives. Okay, let's say, you talk to someone direct. Okay, you and me, okay, we go on this deserted island. We only have fresh fruit, fresh vegetables, and fresh water. You have no access to your pharmaceuticals. And let's say you're taking 10 or 11 drugs. Okay, does your health improve or decline? 100% say improve. I've never had one person say I don't know. Okay, 100% say improve. Okay, I mean, if you have your thyroid removed or your pancreas damaged or something else, some drugs can be life-saving. That is not the majority. Okay, that is the rarity. So this is what we do to clean up the system. Number one, clean up the food system. Why? Because that herd of water buffalo had 1 in 2 cancer, had 1 in 4 autoimmune diseases. Okay, if that herd of water buffaloes, would we give them drugs or would we look at what they're eating? Survey says it's not brain science, okay? This isn't like, it just makes sense. So clean this crap up. Don't spray the crops with glyphosates, which is an antibiotic. Let's grow it out of healthy soil. Let's grow the soil. Let's look at healthy animals, healthy plants. It makes sense. Clean up the healthcare, the freedom to choose your own medical procedures. That would be nice. Whether you want, you can get vaccines, you can not get them, you can change the medical education. Absolutely. Independence of thought. So industries will not fund the medical education. So people can start learning the cause of diseases. And then it'd be nice if the medical doctor was responsible for the outcome. So if they give you an aspirin a day and you stroke out, okay, wow, maybe I should have looked at the diet or how they're processing the nutrients. Environment, clean it up, okay? Solar wind is good, but we're going to need oil because that produces the solar power and the wind power and the petrochemicals to make the solar, panels. So, it's foolishness to shut it off while we're learning how to get it better. Politics. Oh my God, balanced budget. Wouldn't that be cool? Okay. Maybe having ID to show that you can vote. Okay. Whoa, I know. Infrastructure. Okay. Wouldn't that be nice? Okay. If we had good roads and systems. I mean, all of this stuff makes sense. This is why when we talk about changing the world, we can, but it begins with us. When we're looking at health, nerve supply, exercise, food, sufficient rest and prayer and meditation. What condition would not be helped by this? You could say Down syndrome would be helped by this. You're not going to recover from it, but you're going to have the maximum expression of life. Does that make sense? So we're going to get into the censorable stuff, although I really don't know how most of that stuff is going to get by the censors. Yeah. Okay. You ever pull the tail of a big, mean, nasty dog? That's what I just did. Okay. So for those of you watching us on YouTube, God bless you. Please share, like, subscribe. Hopefully that'll delay the destruction of our channel. And if you're on Facebook, God bless you. Share, like, subscribe. But we have to go to the information that would not be approved by the Ministry of Truth.